everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, or you can, of course, just call me Juice, because that is my nickname. Welcome, everyone, to the Juice Alert. This is episode number 58 for you, ladies and gentlemen, today. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can, of course, find the Juice Alert on YouTube as well as podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. If you're listening here on YouTube, be sure to leave a like here on this episode. And if you're feeling kind and you listen on podcasting platforms, be sure to leave me a good rating and review. It definitely helps me out right here on the show. Today, we're going to cover a lot of pretty interesting topics right here. We're going to talk about Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk about Cam Newton and Mac Jones. We'll also talk about Trey Lance. And to end the show, I will talk about Kevin Durant. There's a pretty fun basketball topic regarding Kevin Durant and Team USA that I want to touch on, but it's kind of an outdated topic. That's why I'm going to put it at the very end of the show. So if you want to listen to that, be sure to stay tuned until the end. You pretty much should stay tuned in to the end of every show because, well, you don't want to miss a single episode or a single topic regarding what I'm talking about here, obviously. But yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of great things today. But before I do get started, I just wanted to say you guys can follow me on social media. My Instagram account is GHIMAN_MCKINNEY. And my Twitter account is GHIMAN MCKINNEY. And also, if you want to get specific updates regarding this show, you can follow the Juice Alert both on Instagram and Twitter. The Twitter account is at the Juice Alert, and the Instagram account is the Juice Alert _. Okay, so to kick off the show, I want to discuss Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. I firmly believe that Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears are the future of the NFC North going forward. When Justin Fields was drafted by the Chicago Bears, immediately I said, that's a home run. They knocked it out the park. That is a slam dunk draft pick by the Chicago Bears. They traded up to go get Justin Fields. I said heading into the draft, Chicago was the one team that desperately needed to trade up for a quarterback. And they got their hands on a pretty darn good quarterback in Justin Fields, in my opinion. You know, when you look at Chicago, I really do think this organization is on the upward trend now that they have added Justin Fields. You know, they traded up for him and boom, I think the Chicago Bears legitimately have hope. Because here's the thing, Justin Fields to me is the most talented Chicago Bears quarterback of all time. Now, is he the best Chicago Bears quarterback of all time? No, he's not. Sid Luckman holds that title. Sid Luckman is a Hall of Famer. But I definitely could see Justin Fields definitely ending up being a better quarterback than Sid Luckman. And I think that just from a talent perspective, Justin Fields is the best quarterback Chicago's ever had. And Chicago's had a lot of bad quarterbacks. Okay, so the bar is not set too high for Justin Fields, but I truly believe that they've gotten themselves a once-in-a-generation type quarterback in Justin Fields. Chicago legitimately has hope because here's the thing. When you have a great quarterback, a franchise-caliber quarterback, and I do believe Justin Fields will translate into being that guy. He obviously has not played a single snap in a regular season game, but I'm projecting right here, and I'm going to bet that Justin Fields is going to be great for the Chicago Bears if they put talent around him, and I believe they will. See, here's the thing. Peyton Manning gave a very, very bad Indianapolis Colts team hope, and he turned that organization around. Brett Favre gave the Green Bay Packers a lot of hope. People forget, after the Bart Starr days, Green Bay was not a very good football team, but they traded for Brett Favre. Brett Favre turns into this great quarterback. They win a Super Bowl. They've been a relevant franchise ever since. Deshaun Watson, he gave the Houston Texans hope. Would anyone be talking about the Houston Texans today if it were not for Deshaun Watson? They'd be the worst team in the entire league if they didn't have Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Cam Newton gave the Carolina Panthers a lot of hope. He led them to a Super Bowl, had a great run with the Carolina Panthers. Kyler Murray, he's giving the Arizona Cardinals a lot of hope. They've improved every single year under Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's a star. The point is, if you have that guy at quarterback, you have a chance to turn your organization around, and that quarterback gives you legitimate hope, okay? Several years ago, Chicago had great rosters with Jay Cutler, even with Mitchell Trubisky. Last year, Chicago made the playoffs in spite of Mitchell Trubisky. But did anyone ever take Chicago seriously when they had Mitchell Trubisky or Jay Cutler or whatever no-name quarterback they had in years past? No one seriously took the Chicago Bears seriously, because in the end, we all knew at the most important position in the NFL, which is quarterback, they did not have that guy. They just didn't have enough juice at that position. And Justin Fields will provide them with the juice that they need. And you look at Chicago, right now, Justin Fields is actually walking into a pretty decent situation. Chicago has pretty good wide receivers. They have a legitimate defense. They have a solid running game. Matt Nagy, to me, is a pretty underrated coach. I think Matt Nagy does not get enough credit for the job that he's done in Chicago so far. And I think that if Chicago eventually fixes their offensive line and they get a little bit younger, their roster is kind of old and aging. They will need to retool some things. But over the next couple of years, if they can solve those issues, I believe Chicago is going to be a force to be reckoned with, okay? And here's the thing. When you look at the future of the NFC North, let's look at Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago. Out of all four of those teams, I'd argue, right now today, projecting towards the future, Chicago should be at the top of that list. Chicago, to me, like I said, they're the future of the NFC North with Justin Fields. When you look at Minnesota, they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, who is an average quarterback. He's a solid starter, but nothing special. And Kellen Mond, I'm not completely sold on him. He's not all that great. And Mike Zimmer, to me, a little bit outdated. You look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff is a quarterback that's going to have to overcome a lot with the Detroit Lions. Unstable organization at times regarding the front office. Dan Campbell's unproven. The Detroit Lions, they're a mess, to be quite honest with you. They're a very unproven organization. We don't know what's going to happen with Detroit. And for my money, I'm going to bet that Detroit is going to continue to be dysfunctional until they prove me wrong. And you look at Green Bay, of course they're in the Super Bowl window right now with Aaron Rodgers, but by the year of 2022, which is next year, Aaron Rodgers could be out the door, okay? He seriously could. There's a lot of questions about Aaron Rodgers' future with Green Bay. Is the management going to cater to Aaron Rodgers? Do they want him back after the season? Or are they going to pull the trigger and say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, we're going to trade you away. Jordan Love's our guy, okay? And not to mention, Green Bay has made the NFC Championship game the last 2 years, but there's a price to pay for having a great team. Eventually, you're going to have to pay those guys. You're going to have to pay Devontae Adams a ton of money. You're going to have to pay Jair Alexander a ton of money. I'm sorry, but in order to keep these great players around, you will have to pay them. And same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to want a long-term deal, going to want security with Green Bay. So we don't know if Green Bay is going to be able to pay those guys. In fact, for my money, I think Green Bay is going to be very frugal and cheap, like they have been in years past. So Chicago, you look at their future with Justin Fields, I think that if they just retool the roster and continue drafting well, they're the future of this division, especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves the NFC North. So, like I said, I think that the future is definitely bright for the Chicago Bears with Justin Fields. He's a real player. I believe in him. And I think Chicago is the future of the NFC North, led by Justin Fields, no doubt about it. So, heading into the 2021 season, the Chicago Bears have three options at the quarterback position. They have Justin Fields, first-round pick out of Ohio State. They also have Andy Dalton on the roster. And they also have Nick Foles, who a couple of years ago won a Super Bowl as a backup quarterback with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, here's the thing. I believe between those three quarterbacks, the day one starter should be Justin Fields. Justin Fields should be the day one starter for the Chicago Bears. I believe in Justin Fields. Like I said, I've talked about him on multiple occasions. I believe he's a super talented quarterback. You can make the argument that he's a generational talent. he's really, really good. I believe in him as a prospect and as an NFL quarterback. And I believe he should be the day one starter. And I believe Justin Fields gives the Chicago Bears the best chance to win right now between Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, and himself. He gives Chicago the best chance to win right now. And I totally understand people that are hesitant to put Justin Fields out there. Everyone says, oh, you need to sit a young quarterback. He needs to learn the playbook. He needs to get adapted to the speed of the game. I understand that. And I realize that Andy Dalton is a veteran that has 10 years of experience in the National Football League. Same thing with Nick Foles. Nick Foles is an experienced quarterback. You can win games with Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. But here's the thing. I believe Justin Fields is already an NFL-ready quarterback, okay? This is not a Dwayne Haskins situation where, a couple of years ago, Ohio State quarterback Dwayne Haskins was drafted in the first round by Washington. He was only a one-year starter out of college, and he just wasn't quite ready to be an NFL quarterback from a maturity standpoint. And even Patrick Mahomes. People forget, Patrick Mahomes had problems coming out of Texas Tech, and people said, man, is Patrick Mahomes going to be a franchise quarterback? Some people didn't know. Personally, I was sold on Patrick Mahomes, but even Andy Reid looked at Patrick Mahomes and said, yeah, you're super talented, but you kind of need to develop a little bit. And so they decided to sit Patrick Mahomes behind Alex Smith and allow him to develop. And boom, Patrick Mahomes turns into the great player that we know him to be today. Arguably the best quarterback in all of football, maybe the best player in the sport. So I understand the philosophy of sitting Justin Fields and letting him learn behind Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. And I will say, whether Justin Fields is the day one starter or not, I just believe at some point he's going to start games for Chicago. I just feel like that at some point Matt Nagy will feel pressured to start Justin Fields. But here's the thing. Justin Fields started 20 games in college, okay? I believe that's more than enough games for me to say that he's had enough experience in college to where he's not going to be overwhelmed. Okay, and by the way, Justin Fields played against a lot of really good teams in college. He played against Clemson. He played against Wisconsin. He played against Alabama. He's played against programs and teams that have legitimate NFL players. Clemson every year has about 10 to 11 NFL caliber players starting on their roster. Okay, and same thing with Alabama and Wisconsin. They're a pretty good team every year, along with Penn State, along with Michigan. Justin Fields has seen the best of the best competition. I understand he played with a lot of great players, but he also played against a lot of great players in college. And by the way, when it comes to Justin Fields, compared to Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, I'm sorry, but he's just a way more talented quarterback. He's much more dynamic. He makes good decisions with the football. He's an elite runner of the football, has a big, strong, dynamic arm, and you can get way more creative with Justin Fields as a play caller compared to Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. I'm sorry, but that's just the honest truth. If you disagree, then I don't know what to tell you, because it's just the honest truth, people, okay? And by the way, defenses have yet to really see what Justin Fields is going to bring to the table. We've seen some glimpses in the preseason, but I think that you can kind of surprise some teams, by bringing in Justin Fields, because we just don't know what this guy is going to be. We haven't seen him yet, okay? So I think the first couple of games, if you put Justin Fields in a position to where you're going to play to his strengths and play a certain way, he can play some good football and allow you to win games. I truly believe that. Here's the thing. If you're Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, I'm sorry, let me say that again, because that came out of my mouth very, very weird. I think I said Ryan Pace. It's Ryan Pace, okay? So let's start over. Deep breath. Let's start over, okay? So if you're Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, okay, you're looking at this roster. This roster was in the playoffs last season. Chicago made the playoffs last year. And I think that if Justin Fields is what we know he can become, Chicago has a chance to surprise a lot of people. Now, am I going to pick them to make the playoffs? No, I don't think so. But here's the thing. This was an 8-8 team last year with bad quarterback play. Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles, they just weren't very good last year, okay? This is a team that has a real defense, a solid run game, solid weapons. The offensive line is a weakness, but the bottom line is Chicago has talent. And if Justin Fields is as good as we know he can become, then, like I said, you have a chance to make the playoffs. So as far as I'm concerned, Justin Fields is way more dynamic than all the quarterbacks you have on the roster. I don't think he'll be overwhelmed from day one. He has talent around him, and this is a roster that can win right now. Now, will Justin Fields come, out the gate, lighting people on fire? I don't know. This should be a 3 to 4 year plan with Justin Fields where we shouldn't judge him based on his rookie season completely. If you're drafting a quarterback in the first round and you trade up for that guy, you need to be all in on him at least for the next 2 to 4 seasons. You have to give Justin Fields time to become the player that he's going to be. And I do believe Chicago is going to give him that opportunity. But yeah, when it comes to the right now, Justin Fields gives Chicago the best chance to win. He should be the day one starter for all the reasons that I mentioned. So I want to now talk about another young quarterback in the NFC North. We just talked about Justin Fields. I want to transition to Jordan Love, who is a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. He was drafted in the 2020 NFL Draft. He was traded up for by the Green Bay Packers in the first round with the 26th overall pick. And Jordan Love was taken behind quarterbacks that were named Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, and Justin Herbert. He was the 4th quarterback taken in his draft. Now, Jordan Love started 3 years at Utah State. And a lot of people actually, in my opinion, don't really know a whole lot about Jordan Love. And quite frankly, I don't know a whole lot about Jordan Love either, just because I haven't seen him play in a single regular season game. Like, we saw his first preseason game versus the Houston Texans where he played really well, but the bottom line is that's preseason. We don't know much about Jordan Love. So today I want to talk about how I felt about Jordan Love coming out of college once again. And I wanted to talk about what his ceiling is. How good can Jordan Love become as an NFL quarterback? But based on what I've seen and what I watched, based on Jordan Love's tape at Utah State, and based on his first preseason game, I believe Jordan Love has a chance to be a well above average franchise quarterback in the NFL. Okay, I truly do believe that, okay? I even said that before he was drafted. I felt that Jordan Love was potentially worth a top 10 pick if you were going to develop him properly and play to his strength. I think that Jordan Love legitimately has a real live NFL arm. Like, he doesn't quite have a cannon for an arm, but the arm strength is definitely there. It's alive. It's real. It might be his best quality overall. Like, he has the legitimate arm strength to push the ball into tight windows, to make big plays down the field. Off platform, you see some really good throws from him at times based on his tape back at Utah State. And he's a pretty accurate passer when given time to throw, Now, I will say his ball placement and his ability to read defenses are two things that he will need to work on. Like, his ball placement at times wasn't all that great. He at times made life a little bit harder for his wide receivers where, on certain passes, the ball was maybe behind a wide receiver, maybe too far out in front. His ball placement and accuracy could get a little bit better. And I want to see him, scan the field a little bit better. That's one area that I think that he needs to really grow and develop in, because we saw at times at Utah State, he made some very poor decisions and really just had poor judgment at times as a quarterback, some bag-breaking mistakes and some bad throws where if you make some of those throws in the NFL, you're not going to get away with those things, okay? They will make it pay, okay? Because Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, Richard Sherman, those guys, they're going to catch those passes and they're going to telegraph those things, okay? And the thing is, once you change the picture on Jordan Love, like if you throw a couple of different looks at him, at times he looked rattled, So here's the thing. I think Jordan Love is in a really good situation to where he's sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, he's learning and developing and getting better. And once you really play to his strengths and hone his skills, I think he can become a good NFL quarterback. I really do. Now, here's the thing. We also have to take into account that Jordan Love, the guy played at Utah State. He didn't play at Ohio State like Justin Fields did. He didn't play at Clemson like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence did. He didn't play at Alabama like Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones did. The point is, when you go to those top-of-the-level programs, or Oklahoma has a bunch of NFL wide receivers and running backs, usually an elite offensive line. When you go to those stacked and elite programs, you have a distinct advantage over your opposition, especially if you're a quarterback. So the thing is, when you look at Jordan Love, He didn't have 5-star wide receivers at Utah State to throw to. He didn't have great running backs or the best players in the country. He was always at a distinctive disadvantage. So I think at times Jordan Love tried to overcompromise. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he handles his situation in Green Bay, because if the Green Bay Packers bring back Devontae Adams, he'll have one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL to throw to. He'll have a pretty good offensive line, a pretty good running back in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now, do I think Jordan Love will ever become an elite quarterback? He has some talent. There is some traits that you like, but I wouldn't quite go that far. There's always a possibility. If you're winning games and you're a pretty talented player, you have a chance to become elite, but I don't know if I'm going to go that far, just because at most there's usually four, maybe 5, tier 1 or elite quarterbacks in the NFL. But the bottom line is, I think Jordan Love has some talent. Do I think he's the next great quarterback? I might pause with that, but I think that Jordan Love has some skills, and I think that if you develop him properly, he can become a reliable, good, above-average franchise quarterback. So that's how I feel about Jordan Love and his ceiling, especially for the Green Bay Packers, and potentially being an NFL quarterback going forward. So I talked about Jordan Love and his ceiling just now, how good he can become. But here's the thing. I truly believe this, and I've said this in the past. At some point, the Green Bay Packers need to look to trade Jordan Love away. At some point, they need to do it. Now, I understand that the Green Bay Packers invested a first-round pick in Jordan Love, and not only did they draft him with a first-round pick, they traded up a couple of spots to ensure drafting Jordan Love. They traded up for the guy. They didn't just wait for him. He didn't just fall in their lap. Green Bay traded up to go get Jordan Love despite having Aaron Rodgers, a future Hall of Fame quarterback, on their roster. So they're invested in Jordan Love. And I have no problem with the Green Bay Packers letting Jordan Love develop behind Aaron Rodgers. I did not agree with the move for them to draft Jordan Love, just because I said, look, you're in a Super Bowl window right now with a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. You don't need Jordan Love. You need to upgrade your wide receiver core, upgrade the defense. Go all in right now. But I understand that Green Bay, they're invested in Jordan Love, and they're going to give him every opportunity to be the guy going forward. So I understand that. So they're going to have to make their mind up at some point. They're going to potentially have to maybe trade away Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to have to pick a side. But here's the thing. The reason why I'm against the Green Bay Packers holding on to Jordan Love is just because, here's the thing, people. Aaron Rodgers is not the type of quarterback that you just casually move on from. Here's the thing, people. Jordan Love is playing behind Aaron Rodgers, who right now today is at worst one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't see that changing from anytime soon. I think Aaron Rodgers has 3 to 5 good to great seasons left in him, and potentially even more football left in him if he continues to take care of his body and if he's committed. And you do realize that Aaron Rodgers was never supposed to be this good, okay? All-time great quarterbacks and MVP level players like Aaron Rodgers, they don't just grow on trees. Aaron Rodgers, arguably, is the most talented quarterback the NFL has ever seen. He's arguably the most talented thrower of the football the National Football League has ever seen. Do you guys understand that? You're just going to move on from that guy? And here's the thing. Like I said, like I've talked about in the past, if you have a guy like Bill Belichick or you have a guy like Mike Tomlin, I understand that Patriots fans were upset about Belichick missing the playoffs last year in New England. I understand that Steelers fans feel that Mike Tomlin hasn't won a Super Bowl in the last 10 years. They don't feel that way. It's a known fact he hasn't won a Super Bowl in the last 10 years. But the point is, I understand Steelers and Patriots fans' frustrations, but here's the thing. If you move on from those guys, more than likely, you're not going to find a replacement that's going to be anywhere as close to as good as those guys. So when you have greatness around you and when life is good, you need to wrap your arms around that stuff, okay? Because more than likely, you're going to downgrade at some point. And here's the thing, people. If Green Bay thinks they're going to walk into another Aaron Rodgers to another Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers situation where the Packers drafted Brett Favre, They didn't draft Brett Favre. They traded for Brett Favre, pardon me. They traded for Brett Favre, and then Brett Favre wins them a Super Bowl, and eventually they feel that, Brett Favre's time in Green Bay might be numbered, and they drafted Aaron Rodgers. The point is, they went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks that have won 3 league MVPs, and 2 quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl. Okay? You can make the argument that Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers both are 2 of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Some people would argue that both quarterbacks are in the GOAT conversation, okay? The point is, Green Bay got lucky. That's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. And if you think that that's going to happen again, you're mistaken if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, okay? And here's the thing, Jordan Love, he has to be great for Green Bay, okay? If you're a Packers fan, do you legitimately want Jordan Love to be average? Because what's the point of drafting a guy like Jordan Love if he's just going to be a decent starting quarterback, okay? Because you can go get that in free agency. There's plenty of Nick Foles and Andy Daltons and Case Keenums out there, quarterbacks that if you put a great roster around them, they can win. And here's the thing. I know some of you people out there are saying, what about Jordan Love? What's his upside? Okay, let's compare Jordan Love to the best young quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Not just the best of the best. We're going to throw Russell Wilson out. We're going to throw Aaron Rodgers out. We're going to throw Tom Brady out. Let's just look at the young quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay? I don't think it's fair to compare him to Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. He's not as talented as those guys. He'll probably never be as good as those guys as NFL quarterbacks. So let's go to the next couple of young quarterbacks. Kyler Murray. Him or Jordan Love for the next 10 years. I'm picking Kyler Murray, and I'm not hesitating. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. Those 2 quarterbacks, to me, as prospects and as players, clearly better than Jordan Love. Okay? Not even close. And you look at the quarterbacks that were drafted this year, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, they're much more talented than Jordan Love. And again, I like Jordan Love. I think he legitimately has some upside. I think he can become an above-average franchise quarterback. But do you realize how good quarterbacks are in today's NFL? Trey Lance might be the 10th most talented young quarterback in the NFL right now. Okay? So, we're looking at a guy in Jordan Love that a couple of years from now might not even be one of the 10 best young quarterbacks in the NFL, let alone 10 best quarterbacks. So really, what are we talking about, people? You have Aaron Rodgers right now, Green Bay. You must maximize that opportunity. Embrace Aaron Rodgers while he's here, because when he's gone, life is going to get rocky. Even if Jordan Love is good, there's going to be some growing pains. There were some growing pains with Aaron Rodgers. There has been, okay? And here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers, I get it. He's 37 years old. But the last 2 years under Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have had 2 really great seasons. 2 NFC Championship game appearances. Okay, the first year under Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, he leads Green Bay to the NFC Championship in a game with, in a season where Aaron Rodgers is just trying to figure things out. He's learning a whole new system. The team kind of retooled itself. Green Bay was just figuring itself out. Usually, if you have a rookie head coach, you don't go to NFC Championship games. You'd be lucky to make the playoffs with a rookie head coach, okay? Then the very next year, Aaron Rodgers has an MVP level season and arguably the best season of his career. So we're talking about a guy in Aaron Rodgers that just came off the greatest season of his career, in my humble opinion. 48 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Boy, oh boy, was he unbelievable in the regular season. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is slowing down anytime soon. And you look at guys like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees. Those quarterbacks have shown the ability to play great football into the later stages of their career. Tom Brady is still going strong. He's 43 years old, and Aaron Rodgers is more physically gifted than Tom Brady. And even you look at guys like Nick Foles, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo. Over the past 4 to 5 seasons, those are quarterbacks that have started games in a Super Bowl. Nick Foles got to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago and won a Super Bowl. Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Jimmy Garoppolo was just in the Super Bowl not too long ago. You mean to tell me Aaron Rodgers isn't as talented as those guys? I beg to differ. The point is, why are we trying to get rid of Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden? And here's the thing. What's the point of having Jordan Love on the roster if you have Aaron Rodgers? You can legitimately get something back for Jordan Love. I really do firmly believe that. Maybe the Atlanta Falcons would love to have Jordan Love. You can give them a call. They need a successor to Matt Ryan. I don't think Josh Rosen is the answer regarding that. And by the way, if you trade away Jordan Love and you get some draft capital back for him, or potentially maybe a decent player for him, it eliminates that distraction. Because right now, today, let's be real. We know Aaron Rodgers is the Green Bay Packers starting quarterback. Jordan Love is a distraction. I'm sorry. That's how I look at it, okay? And I know what people are going to say. Oh, Jamon, what about the future? Screw the future. Screw it, okay? Green Bay has had a problem over the past couple of years regarding this. When they have a chance to go for it, they don't do it. They bail, okay? Usually, when Green Bay has a chance to put themselves over the top and make an extra move, they opt for the future. Meanwhile, teams like the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the 49ers, they make moves to go all in to win right now. And those are the types of teams that Green Bay loses to every single year in the playoffs. Okay, so at some point, you got to change your philosophy. You got to adapt. And great quarterbacks just don't grow on trees, people. So here's the thing. I just don't understand why Green Bay is so reluctant to move on from Aaron Rodgers. You can say, oh, Aaron Rodgers is a diva. He's a bad leader. I'm sorry, people, but if you have a Beyonce or, an Alicia Keys or a Justin Bieber, maybe a Kanye West, if they have a couple of problems, you deal with those problems because they're going to sell tickets. They're going to bring in revenue. They're great at what they do. You can't find another Kanye, Justin Bieber, Beyonce. You need to wrap your arms around them. Okay, I'm sorry if they're too difficult. That's a problem you just have to deal with. And over the past 4 years, we're looking at quarterbacks. Let's look at some of the quarterbacks that have hit. Okay, first round quarterbacks. Last year, you had Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Tua Tagovailoa. I think 2 of those quarterbacks are slam dunks. Those quarterbacks being Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. And Tua, I'm not a huge fan of Tua, but I think that he has a chance to become a good starting quarterback. Not a great starting quarterback, not a star, but good, solid starter, okay? Look at Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones. Right now, Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins have a lot of questions, but Kyler Murray is a slam dunk, okay? Let's look at the next draft. Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold. 3 out of those 5 quarterbacks are really darn good. And some people think that Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen still have potential. You look at Mitchell Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. It's pretty clear to me that Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson have hit, and Mitchell Trubisky, he's whiffed a little bit. He's not a starting quarterback today. He's a backup to Josh Allen. So here's the thing. Out of those 14 quarterbacks, I consider 8 of them to be a true success. Those quarterbacks being Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson. So 8 out of the 14 quarterbacks that I mentioned are hits. So that's a 57% hit rate. And let's say that Tua Tagovailoa proves me wrong and becomes a really good quarterback. Let's say that Sam Darnold turns his career around with the Carolina Panthers, a much more stable organization and much more better players around him. Let's say Dwayne Haskins turns his career around with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I believe he will. I've actually said that in the past. I believe that Dwayne Haskins will turn his career around in Pittsburgh. Then the hit rate increases to 78%. And not to mention, what if someone like Daniel Jones succeeds? Then the hit percentage is in the 80s. The point is, It's okay if you're bad for a year. Quarterbacks are growing on trees. Every single year, there's about 3 to 4 really good quarterback prospects, and more than likely, based on the test that I just put you guys through, you are going to hit at over a 50% rate. I would take those chances. With Green Bay's scouting department and the players and how they evaluate players, I believe they can hit it on a quarterback. So the point is, if you don't want to wrap your arms around Aaron Rodgers, I don't know why. I think Jordan Love needs to be traded away. I believe Green Bay should focus on the now rather than the future. And that's why I believe that there's a case to be made for why Jordan Love should be traded away from the Green Bay Packers. That's a decision I believe Green Bay should make going forward in the future eventually. So I have a strong opinion regarding the San Francisco 49ers current quarterback situation, and I want to talk about it. I believe the San Francisco 49ers should name Trey Lance as their day one starter over Jimmy Garoppolo. I understand it's a very strong opinion. I understand the belief that, we don't want to start Trey Lance right away. We don't want to ruin his confidence. We're going to go the Patrick Mahomes route where Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith and blossomed into the great player that we know him to be today. I understand that. I understand that Trey Lance only started 1 year in college. There is a little bit of rawness to his game. He is inexperienced. I get all that. But here's the thing. When it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, 2 quarterbacks currently on the 49ers roster, there can only be one starter. And here's the thing, people. There isn't much of a difference right now today, to me, between Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. Think about it, people. In my opinion, and I think this should be your opinion too, so I'll try to convince you guys, I think Trey Lance gives the 49ers the best chance to win football games. I truly do believe that. Okay? Here's the thing. There was a reason why Jimmy Garoppolo was the 62nd overall pick of his draft class, and Trey Lance was the 3rd overall pick in his draft class. Okay? He's just Trey Lance is just flat out more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo. The raw talent there is real. The arm strength, the ability to throw the deep ball, throw a platform, the accuracy down the field, his ability to run the football effectively. He grades out better than Jimmy Garoppolo in nearly every single category that I just mentioned. The only category that Jimmy Garoppolo has over Trey Lance is experience. And I understand that experience is everything. It's something you can't teach. But here's the thing. I understand Jimmy Garoppolo got the 49ers to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I get it. He's a good, solid starter. But there's also inconsistencies to Jimmy Garoppolo's game. There will be times where there are plays to be made, and quite frankly, Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't make those plays. There are overthrows on tape. He at times will stare down wide receivers. He'll take some bad sacks where he just holds onto the football way too long. He won't throw the ball away. Sometimes he isn't reading the defense properly. The point is, there's inconsistencies with Jimmy Garoppolo's game already. Why are we scared of Trey Lance's growing pains if we're okay with Jimmy Garoppolo's inconsistencies? I'm sorry, but here's the thing with me. I'm okay with Trey Lance's rookie mistakes because Jimmy Garoppolo, he's already inconsistent. You're going to get pretty much the same production from these guys, really, in my opinion, whether you start Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance. But here's the thing. Here's the biggest difference. Trey Lance is going to consistently make big plays. And I believe that Trey Lance can have a similar impact to what Russell Wilson had during his rookie season, where Russell Wilson at times was inconsistent. His rookie season, he had a great team around him, a great defense, a great run game, a pretty good wide receivers, a great head coach in Pete Carroll. And there were some games where Russell Wilson was inconsistent, but boy, oh boy, did Russell Wilson make big plays when there needed to be made. He won games, and he had one of the best rookie seasons of all time from a quarterback standpoint. And I think that Trey Lance, because of his ability to throw the deep ball, because of his ability to run the football effectively. Just because he's a really talented quarterback, he's going to make big plays. Something Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't make. I'm sorry, but with Jimmy, it's a lot of dinking and dunking. It's a lot of, I'm going to rely on the wide receiver to run for a bunch of yards and make my stats look good. There just isn't a whole lot of big plays with Jimmy. And I understand that, look, there's really no right or wrong answer for the 49ers. As long as both of these quarterbacks are relatively healthy and the roster is relatively healthy around them, there's no right or wrong answer. Both guys can win games. But Trey Lance has a great head coach by his side in Kyle Shanahan. He has a great run game. He has a great offensive line. He has star wide receivers and a great tight end in George Kittle to throw to. He has a great defense that will give him the ball back consistently. He will not be asked to win shootouts. The point is, people, Trey Lance is the better player, and I think that Trey Lance should be the day one starter for all the reasons that I mentioned. He should be the day one starter in San Francisco over Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, so we have to talk about the current quarterback situation for the Denver Broncos. So if you guys didn't know, recently Teddy Bridgewater was named the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos over Drew Lock. Now, a lot of people are surprised about this. Personally, I'm not one of those people that is surprised. Listen, Drew Lock had a pretty below average year last year. You know, he was making a lot of very bad decisions with the football. He was turning the football over consistently, just mistake after mistake. He wasn't very accurate, wasn't making good decisions with the football. And quite frankly, he was holding the Denver Broncos offense back. I get it. You had a year of COVID. There were injuries, to the team. But the bottom line is Drew Lock wasn't very good. And you had guys like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert come in from day one as rookies under the same circumstances. Like, Joe Burrow didn't have a great team. Justin Herbert had a horrible offensive line. And those guys balled out. And I can make the argument that Drew Lock definitely has a better supporting cast at his disposal than what Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert have had. Denver has one of the most talented rosters in the entire NFL. So there really is no excuses for Drew Lock. He missed an opportunity. And ultimately, I'm not surprised the Broncos went with Teddy Bridgewater to start over Drew Lock because they brought him in this offseason. Whereas you had other teams that had young quarterbacks like Miami with Tua Tagovailoa, like Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, even like the Giants with Daniel Jones. Heck, the Panthers didn't really bring in competition for Sam Darnold. In fact, the guy that just beat out Drew Lock to win the starting quarterback job, that guy being Teddy Bridgewater, the Panthers moved on from him in favor of Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold has some upside, but Sam Darnold's not a great quarterback. And Carolina said, yeah, we're going to move on from Teddy for Sam, who's unproven. Okay? So that just goes to show you that Drew Lock isn't all that great, and you have to look at things here. The Denver Broncos don't have time to sit around and deal with Drew Lock's mistakes. This roster is ready to win right now. They have star wide receivers, a star tight end in Noah Fant, a good running back in Melvin Gordon, a solid offensive line, a defense that's probably going to be top 10 this year. And Vic Fangio is a defensive-minded head coach. So what does that mean? That means defensive-minded head coaches don't like quarterbacks that make mistakes because that puts their defense in danger. So I understand that Vic Fangio went with the safer option in Teddy Bridgewater. Look, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have a whole lot of upside compared to some of the other quarterbacks in the NFL. He's not this incredibly talented quarterback, but he's going to be consistent. He's going to get the job done. He's going to deliver accurate passes. He's not going to consistently turn the football over as much as Drew Lock. And quite frankly, based on what Vic Fangio saw, he felt that Drew Lock was not the best option for the Broncos to win this year. So I understand Vic Fangio saying, hey, I might potentially be on the hot seat. Drew Lock is mistake prone. I have a good veteran quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater that can just be a game manager, and let's go with it. So I understand why Denver went with Teddy Bridgewater. Personally, I would have went with Drew Lock because I think Drew Lock has some upside. I felt that he had a chance to resurrect himself this year in 2021. There were reports that he was working with Peyton Manning in the offseason, but ultimately the Broncos didn't see what I see. I'm not at practice every day, so I understand the Broncos' decision to go with Teddy Bridgewater, like I said. And it's unfortunate for Drew Lock, but that is why the Denver Broncos decided to roll with Teddy Bridgewater as their starting quarterback going forward for all the reasons that I mentioned. And by the way, I'm very happy for Teddy Bridgewater because he really has a good team around him, and he's got a chance to show how good he can become. This is an opportunity where if Teddy Bridgewater plays great and the Broncos make it into the playoffs, the Broncos are going to have to consider Teddy Bridgewater being potentially their franchise quarterback of the future. I know Teddy Bridgewater is kind of looked at as this stopgap quarterback, this starter that's not a guy that has a ton of upside. But listen, man, if Teddy Bridgewater goes out and balls, the Denver Broncos will at least have to have a sit-down conversation about Teddy Bridgewater potentially being their guy. And by the way, I just wanted to say this. If the Broncos were this unsure about Drew Lock to the point where they were going to give Teddy Bridgewater a real shot to win the starting quarterback job this year and things like that, if you weren't quite sold on Drew Lock, why did you pass on Justin Fields? Why did you pass on Mac Jones in the draft? I get it. Patrick Surtain is going to be an excellent starting defensive back in the NFL. But quarterbacks are what make the world go around. And you had an opportunity to get Justin Fields or Mac Jones, who would be perfect for the Denver Broncos. Justin Fields is this dynamic playmaker that's really, really good. I think he has a lot of potential. And Mac Jones, he's an accurate passer with more upside than people are willing to give him credit for. Okay, so I didn't understand why Denver didn't pull the trigger on a quarterback if they were this unsure about Drew Lock. That just doesn't make sense to me. And also, you have to think about this. Drew Lock was a second-round pick for the Broncos. So they were never all that invested in Drew Lock. They just basically said, hey, Drew Lock is there. We're going to take him. But they didn't trade it for Drew Lock in the 2019 draft. They didn't take him with a top 10 pick. No, Drew Lock fell to Denver, and they just said he's too good to pass up on. So that's how I feel about the Drew Lock situation. Unfortunately, Drew Lock's future as an NFL starting quarterback is potentially maybe over. He'll probably get another opportunity with another team if Denver were to potentially trade him. Maybe Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt, and maybe Teddy Bridgewater doesn't look all that great, and Drew Lock gets another opportunity. We'll see if he's ready. But that's how I feel about Drew Lock losing his starting quarterback job to Teddy Bridgewater in a make-or-break year. 2021 was a make-or-break year for Drew Lock. Like, he had to go out there this year and ball out to prove to Denver that he was the guy. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, and that's unfortunate for Drew Lock, but congratulations to Teddy Bridgewater for being the Broncos starting quarterback. So, I want to circle back to Drew Lock just quickly. Is Drew Lock already a bust after losing his starting quarterback job to Teddy Bridgewater? And my answer to this question is no. Drew Lock isn't a bust right now, but he's trending towards that direction, okay? Look, I like to give quarterbacks a fair opportunity because even Brett Favre didn't work out with the Atlanta Falcons. He goes to the Green Bay Packers. He has a Hall of Fame career after that. The San Diego Chargers at the time they were the San Diego Chargers. The San Diego Chargers at the time bailed on Drew Brees, and Drew Brees goes to the New Orleans Saints, wins a Super Bowl, puts up incredible numbers, has a Hall of Fame career. And I think a guy like Dwayne Haskins, who didn't work out in Washington, can really turn his career around in Pittsburgh. So I like to give quarterbacks a fair opportunity. Like, Josh Rosen didn't work out in Arizona. And at the time, when Arizona moved on from Josh Rosen, I didn't quite call him a bust at the time because I wanted to see what he could do with the Miami Dolphins. But once he squandered his second opportunity with the Dolphins where he couldn't beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick, I said, yeah, I'm done. You got a second opportunity, and Josh Rosen's just not very good, okay? So maybe Drew Lock has an incredible comeback story in the future. But here's the thing. The Drew Lock situation is pretty much a shame because Drew Lock missed a golden opportunity because the Denver Broncos put him in a great position to succeed. They have star wide receivers, Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick's really good. Noah Fant is a star tight end. If Noah Fant had better quarterback play, I think more people would know who he is. You look at Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon's a really good running back. The offensive line is pretty good. The defense, probably going to be a top 10 unit, like I said earlier. And the the bottom line is Drew Lock just wasn't very good. He did not take advantage of this opportunity. Like, I can understand if Drew Lock was struggling and the offensive line was bad, the wide receivers were dropping passes, but this is not a situation where the Broncos have not put talent around Drew Lock. They have put talent around Drew Lock, and he has not played well. And that's pretty bad, because if you're a starting quarterback and you can't make it work with the Broncos' weapons and those star wide receivers and those good running backs and that good tight end and with that good defense, I'm sorry, but you're probably just not a franchise quarterback. And here's the thing. Like I just talked about earlier, the Broncos chose Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock. And Teddy Bridgewater was bailed on by the Panthers in favor of Sam Darnold, who up to this point has not really shown us a whole lot. I understand his situation with the Jets wasn't all that great, but the Carolina Panthers said, we think Sam Darnold's upside is something we're going to bank on, and we're going to bail on Teddy Bridgewater, okay? The guy that got bailed on for Sam Darnold, that guy being Teddy Bridgewater, is the guy that just beat out Drew Lock. And I think we're also really starting to see why Drew Lock fell to the second round of the 2019 NFL Draft. And by the way, the 2019 NFL Draft, it has proven up to this point at least to not be a great quarterback draft class. Kyler Murray is a superstar. He's going to be a great player for a long time if he stays healthy. But Dwayne Haskins has had a rocky start to his career. Daniel Jones, I'm not all that sold. You look at Drew Lock, he just got beat out for Teddy Bridgewater. So Drew Lock fell to the second round in a bad quarterback draft class. Like, I could understand if Drew Lock maybe fell to the second round in this past year's draft, where you had Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, heck, Mac Jones. A lot of people felt that Mac Jones was the fifth best quarterback in this past year's draft. And if Mac Jones is the fifth best quarterback in a draft class, boy, oh boy, is that draft class loaded at quarterback. No, Drew Lock fell in the draft in a bad quarterback draft class, okay? So, you look at Drew Lock, he's just very inconsistent. He doesn't anticipate very well. Like, he's a thrower. He's not a natural passer. If the guy is wide open, he's going to hit him, but he doesn't anticipate those open windows. He really lacks anticipation. He makes horrible decisions when blitzed. He's bad under pressure, makes bad decisions. He's very inaccurate. He's really undisciplined to where defenders can bait him into making bad throws. And, I'm hoping Drew Lock resurrects his career, maybe in Denver if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't work out, or somewhere else. But right now, Drew Lock today, I don't think he's quite a bust, but he is definitely trending towards being a bust if he can't resurrect his career in Denver or somewhere else. And it's a shame. So I want to transition now to Cam Newton and Mac Jones, two quarterbacks that currently play for the New England Patriots. Now, who should be the starter between Cam Newton and Mac Jones, you should ask? If you're asking me, I believe it should be Cam Newton. And this is taking nothing away from Mac Jones. I actually made a topic on Mac Jones before the draft officially got underway, and I said, in that segment, Mac Jones is better than you think. A lot of people thought that Mac Jones was just this, average quarterback prospect. And I said, no, this guy is accurate. He makes good decisions. He has sneaky good arm strength. He's a fast learner. And I think that he's going to be a pretty solid quarterback in the NFL. And so far, Mac Jones in the preseason has been accurate. He's been making good decisions. He seems to be picking up the playbook very well. And I think Mac Jones has more than enough arm strength to make all the requisite throws in the NFL. And he's clearly the future of the New England Patriots at quarterback because they drafted him in the first round. And while Cam Newton is a good starter, I think his best days are past him. And I think that Belichick and the Patriots coaching staff realizes this. But the question right now, here in 2021, is this. Who at this very moment gives the New England Patriots the best chance to win football games and make the playoffs and potentially compete for a Super Bowl going forward right now today in 2021? That guy is Cam Newton. Cam Newton is more experienced. He knows the system. At this point, he has a more powerful arm than Mac Jones. He'll always have a more powerful arm than Mac Jones just because Cam Newton is more physically talented and he has more God-given ability than Mac Jones from a athletic standpoint, from a strength standpoint, And Cam Newton also gives you a dynamic that Mac Jones doesn't quite bring to the table. The ability to run the football. Cam Newton last year had 12 rushing touchdowns. And I think that what really separates the two quarterbacks is which quarterback is going to be the best in the red zone. Because if Mac Jones doesn't have an open wide receiver, he's not making up much things on the fly. He's a guy that has to be on schedule. The pocket has to be clean. Making plays off script and being creative outside the pocket, that's not Mac Jones' game. And that's not what you drafted him to do. Okay? So you got to play to his strengths. Meanwhile, Cam Newton, he gives you that extra luxury to be creative in the red zone, to call some read option plays. If a guy rushes free, he can just scramble around and make a play or two. Okay? And here's the thing. You got to ask this question. When adversity hits and when things get tight, who can truly rally the troops the best between Cam Newton and Mac Jones? I'm going to say it's Cam Newton because Cam Newton has been to a Super Bowl in the past. He's won a lot of games. He's a former league MVP. Cam Newton has been there and done that before. Mac Jones, what happens to the Patriots go on a 2-game losing streak? Is Mac Jones really that leader that can rally the troops? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. But what we do know is Cam Newton has been in that situation before. So I think Cam Newton is still good enough to be a starting quarterback on a really good football team. I think last year, Cam Newton really suffered from COVID-19, also learning a whole new system, and quite frankly, the players around him weren't very good. The Patriots have upgraded at wide receiver. They've reloaded their team. The offensive line is pretty good. They have good running backs. The defense should be a lot better. The schedule is a lot easier this year. I just think that when it comes to Cam Newton, I think that if you watched those games in detail last year, you will have known that Cam Newton was out there. He was doing the best he could. A lot of quarterbacks would have struggled in the situation that Cam Newton was put into last year. And maybe some quarterbacks would have been better. Like if you put Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers in that situation, maybe they lead you to the playoffs. Maybe Tom Brady's better. I don't know. But the point is, the situation for Cam Newton was not ideal last year. The wide receivers were not very good. The Patriots, they were a retooling team that, quite frankly, they weren't that good last year. But this year, they've reloaded. And I believe Cam Newton, him having a second year to really learn that system and dissect things, he'll be a lot better. I think this is the perfect opportunity for Mac Jones to sit and learn and develop. And when Mac Jones' time is called, he'll have a lot less growing pains as opposed to if he starts from day number one. If Mac Jones starts from day one, there will be some legitimate growing pains. And I think that next year, if he's the guy and he just redshirts this year, it'll definitely benefit him. And listen, this is a tough division. Buffalo's a real football team. Miami's really talented. The Jets should be improved. This is a really tight division. So you don't have time for rookie quarterbacks to be going through growing pains. So I think Cam Newton should be the starter in New England from day one for all the reasons that I mentioned. So I now want to transition to Zach Wilson. Because a lot of people think that I hate Zach Wilson. Personally, I don't hate Zach Wilson. I don't hate any NFL player at all. I just think that when you put your opinions out there and you critique these players, when you're giving honest criticisms about a player and you're putting your opinions out there, a lot of people label that as hate. No, it's not hate. I'm just giving my honest evaluation about how I feel about Zach Wilson. But I don't hate Zach Wilson. He's done nothing for me to hate him, okay? I'm just not the biggest fan of him. I felt that Justin Fields and Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence should have all been drafted ahead of him. And, well, Trevor Lawrence was drafted ahead of him, but not Trey Lance and Justin Fields. But that's neither here nor there. Zach Wilson does have talent. He definitely could prove me wrong, but I just felt that Zach Wilson was very overhyped. You know, some people were comparing him to Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, saying, oh, these crazy off-platform throws. He's the next Aaron Rodgers, next Patrick Mahomes. And let's be real, people. Let's slow down. He's not close to those two guys as quarterbacks. Not even close. And will never be better. He'll never be better than Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. Let's get that out of the way. But I think there's one thing we all can agree on here. Whether we like Zach Wilson or we don't think Zach Wilson is quite our cup of tea, we can all agree on this. There is major pressure on Zach Wilson to become a great franchise quarterback for the New York Jets. Because here's the thing. Zach Wilson was the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. And I don't know about all of you listeners out there and people that listen to this great show right here. Appreciate your support. But here's the thing. I don't know about you guys, but if I have the 2nd overall pick and I'm drafting a quarterback, I would hope that quarterback becomes better than someone like, I don't know, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tua Tagovailoa. That's a big knock that I have on Tua. You know, Tua Tagovailoa was a top 5 pick. And to me, Tua Tagovailoa is an average quarterback right now. I think that his ceiling is slightly above average starter. I don't think Tua has star potential. That's why I am a little bit harder on Tua, because I think that, well, if you're drafted in the top 5, if your quarterback is Jared Goff or Jimmy Garoppolo, then I'm kind of disappointed, because in today's NFL, there's so many good quarterbacks, okay? Now, here's the thing. Not only does Zach Wilson have to be a great quarterback, because, well, if you're drafting with a 2nd overall pick, if your quarterback turns into Jimmy Garoppolo or Jared Goff, that's a disappointment, okay? He also has to be better than Justin Fields and Trey Lance and Mac Jones, because he was drafted ahead of those guys. You want your quarterback to be the best one, okay? Zach Wilson has to win big games. He has to be better than Justin Fields and Trey Lance and probably Mac Jones, because you had an opportunity to pick between those 4 quarterbacks, and you chose Zach Wilson, okay? I'm sorry, but there's a reason people are still knocking the San Francisco 49ers for picking Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. You want to know why? Because, oh, well, the 49ers had an opportunity to draft Aaron Rodgers. Duh, okay? So, Zach Wilson not only has to be a great quarterback, not only has to be better than Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones, he also has to be better than Sam Darnold, too. And I'm not ruling out Sam Darnold turning his career around with the Carolina Panthers, because he's going to have star wide receivers to throw to. He'll have a great running back in Christian McCaffrey at his disposal. I think Matt Rule is one of the best young coaches in the NFL. I think Carolina's defense is actually for real. And if they improve their offensive line next year, they could be a legitimate playoff team very, very soon. And people forget, the Jets had an opportunity to keep Sam Darnold on their roster and to develop him and keep things going with Sam Darnold. But Joe Douglas decided, hey, we're not going to do that. Zach Wilson is such a talented quarterback prospect that we're going to ditch Sam Darnold, a former top 5 pick, a guy that had a ton of promise at USC. We're going to say, bye-bye Sam Darnold, hello Zach Wilson. The Jets had an opportunity to trade down and get a ton of draft capital to improve the roster around Sam Darnold, but they bailed on Sam Darnold. And here's the thing, people. If Sam Darnold goes to Carolina and lights it up, and Zach Wilson becomes not very good with the Jets, Joe Douglas and that front office and the Jets overall, they're going to have to answer a lot of questions. And I don't know if Zach Wilson can overcome a lot of these things. I even said in the past, I don't know if Zach Wilson is going to live up to the hype with the New York Jets, because he has an unproven coach in Robert Saleh. Mike LaFleur has never called a single play in the NFL, and calling plays is a whole different animal. You can know offense, but calling plays and designing plays and having a feel within a game, it's a whole lot more different than just knowing offense. You see guys all the time that know a lot about offense, that can design plays, but for whatever reason, once game time hits, they're just not great play callers because play calling is all about feel and adaptation and understanding what your quarterback's strengths are and understanding what a defense is doing at this very moment. And you're constantly having to adjust on the fly because NFL defenses, they're going to adjust and you're going to have to make adjustments as well. So let's just slow down this, Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur, hype train because they're just unproven. We don't know what they're going to be. Not to mention the offensive line still isn't very good. The wide receivers are limited. The Jets really don't have a true tight end that I feel confident saying, oh, that tight end's really good. And the division is very tough because Buffalo, New England, and Miami, they have real rosters. So I'm rooting for Zach Wilson. I hope that he does well. But Zach Wilson has a lot to overcome. And there's major pressure on Zach Wilson as the quarterback for the New York Jets going forward. So I want to end the show by talking about Kevin Durant and the Team USA basketball team. It's interesting. Several weeks ago, this is an old topic, but I want to talk about it. Team USA beat France to officially win the gold medal in the Olympics. I'm talking about the basketball team, by the way. And the Team USA basketball team, full of a bunch of NBA guys, they lost an exhibition game or two. Like, they lost to France. They lost an exhibition game or two, and a lot of people had some doubts about this year's Team USA basketball team. But there was never a doubt in my mind that Team USA was going to win the gold. I picked them from the start, and I never unfolded. I never, moved off that pick just because they had Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker. I get it. LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Steph Curry, James Harden, those guys didn't play. Those are some really talented players. And the NBA and American basketball is still by far and away the best basketball in the world. And the gap is wide. It ain't even close. That is still the case. A lot of people felt that, Team USA is losing. The world is catching up to the NBA and American basketball. I will admit that Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, those are some excellent foreign players that have come over to the States and in America, and they've dominated. Luka Doncic probably is going to win a league MVP eventually. Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, they've won league MVPs already. I think that they're going to continue to be great players going forward. Giannis is in the conversation for best player in the world. Okay? I understand, like I said, you didn't have LeBron, didn't have James Harden, didn't have Kyrie. Well, yeah, you didn't have Kyrie Irving, didn't have Kawhi Leonard, didn't have Steph Curry. But even the JaVale McGee's of the world are still some of the most talented players in America and in the world, quite frankly. And the fact that this was one of the worst the fact that this was one of the worst Team USA rosters that has been put on display over the past decade or past 15 to 20 years, because usually all the star players line up to play. The fact that most of the stars did not line up to play this year and Team USA still won the gold medal, that just goes to show you that American basketball and NBA basketball, it's on a whole different level. It's the best of the best. And Kevin Durant and that Team USA squad, they deserve a lot of credit. And American basketball is still definitely where it's at, along with the NBA. It's the cream of the crop, no doubt about it. And last but not least, I want to address Kevin Durant. We all know Kevin Durant is an all-time great NBA player. Right now, currently, Kevin Durant is in the conversation for best NBA player in the world. And he's really been in that conversation for the last decade. Like, he's been right up there with Kobe, LeBron. He's been right there. He's been knocking on those heels. He arguably might be the best player in the world today just because I think that Kevin Durant has no true weakness to his game. He's the most natural scorer the NBA has ever seen. There's no weakness to his game. He's a two-time NBA champion, two-time NBA Finals MVP. And when it's all said and done, I'll be surprised if Kevin Durant doesn't go down as potentially a top 10 NBA player of all time. I know that's kind of a subjective title. There's no real right or wrong answer for who are the 10 greatest players of all time. But I think that when Kevin Durant's career is over, he'll be in most people's top 10 greatest of all time players list. He'll be in that conversation. He's already in the conversation, but I think that he still has some work to do. But right now today, Kevin Durant, to me at least, should be holding the title as the greatest men's basketball Olympic athlete of all time. And here's why. Kevin Durant currently has more gold medals than Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. He and Carmelo Anthony are tied for the most gold medals at 3. But I think that most people that follow basketball can just agree that Kevin Durant is a more superior player than Carmelo Anthony. Like, Kevin Durant's a better defender, he's a better shooter, he's a better ball handler, he's a better leader. He's just a better player. You know, Carmelo Anthony never quite reached the level that Kevin Durant has reached. And Kevin Durant still has a chance to add on to his legacy, no doubt about it. And even Kevin Durant, he just recently in the Olympics surpassed Carmelo Anthony for most points scored by an NBA basketball player in Olympics history. He's the all-time NBA leading scorer in the Olympics as far as total points and points per game. Okay? And what was unique about this past year is that Kevin Durant really took over down the stretch for Team USA. A lot of his teammates were not stepping up, but Kevin Durant, he came out there, he was dropping 20, 25, 30 points. He was sensational. And he really put Team USA on his back. And I think it was a very impressive victory this year for Team USA just because you didn't have LeBron James, you didn't have Kawhi Leonard, you didn't have Steph Curry. Quite frankly, if Kevin Durant doesn't decide to play for Team USA this year, I think Team USA loses in the Olympics. They don't take home the gold medal, okay? Because that team was really struggling. And a lot of teams are throwing their best punches at Team USA every single year just because Team USA always wins the gold medal because they always have the great NBA players. So teams want to knock them off, okay? They're getting the best shot from every single opponent, and Team USA rose to the occasion, but it was because of Kevin Durant that they won and pretty much prevailed and came out on top. So Kevin Durant, he deserves a lot of credit. And for my money, Kevin Durant is the greatest men's basketball Olympic performer of all time as I speak today. Well, everyone, that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Have a God bless day. Stay safe. And I'm Ghost. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.